mode.
Hi, everyone. I am so delighted that you came today to listen to my presentation accompanied by slides, mostly of my artwork and some photographs, to describe ecstatic wisdom postures. This spiritual practice has animated my life and transformed my psyche for almost the last 20 years, and I'm really looking forward to telling you about them. I discovered Felicitas Goodman's book, Where the Spirits Ride the Wind, shortly after I emerged from 2 months of solitude. During that solitude time, not only did I change my identity from being a psychotherapist to that of an artist, but I also asked for a spiritual practice that would not rob any other indigenous tradition. I was really tired of participating in Native American sweat lodges, and much that they were kind to me and gracious, I knew that I did not know their language. I was not part of their tribe, and it became very awkward. I felt like I was betraying them and betraying me, and I really wanted an earth-based spiritual tradition that reflected my own DNA. So when I stumbled upon this book, it changed my life. Felicitas called the practice ritual body postures and ecstatic trance, but I have termed it ecstatic wisdom postures because I think that is more descriptive of what actually happens. Felicitas was an amazing woman, born in Europe, lived in Hungary and Germany, knew 7 languages inside out, was a linguist and an anthropologist, 2 PhDs under her belt, moved to the U.S. as a war bride, and taught at Denison University in Ohio for many years. She died at the age of 91 in 2005. But her research in postures began in the early 70s, and it was mostly based, her work was mostly based on her curiosity about something she called religious trance, which she observed in the apostolic churches that she studied as a linguist. It's a very long story, but what she was hungering for was to find out how modern urban people could access the world of the sacred. And she knew that prayer, using only words, was a fairly weak method, that the wall between ordinary reality and non-ordinary reality was too thick, and that there was a biological component, a physiological component that had to happen in our bodies in order to allow us to know the sacred reality. So one of the reasons I adore this practice is that I see it as good medicine for this time of cultural upheaval on our planet. It promotes a new world view, which of course then understudies cultural transformation and human evolution. And this painting by me, which I did just recently, symbolizes this new world view for me. When I was 10, similarly to Felicitas, when she was 10, she knew the magic of a living world all around her, and so did I. I had a favorite tree in the backyard, a willow tree, and one evening I climbed it when a thunderstorm was coming, and when I pressed my left ear to the trunk, I heard the tree groaning and shrieking inside, and I suddenly knew that she was totally alive and sentient as I was. What I didn't know, and which really contributes to this new worldview, I think, is that through painting this expression of my experience, through this painting I realized the tree was receiving me as a sentient being. There was a reciprocity there, and that is a lot of the magic of this practice work. So, before I tell you exactly what the system is, let me tell you some of the reasons I love it. It is global, as I have already mentioned. In the beginning of Felicitas's work, she did not experiment with a pose unless she had found it in many other cultural sites around the globe. Here is an example. The little man with his hands on his abdomen is one of our postures. That pose has been found in more than 70 sites around the globe, northern and southern hemispheres, although most of them are in the northern hemisphere. Three of the other reasons that I appreciate this work so much is that because it is body-centered, it's safe and reliable. We don't have to rely on our rational mind to do anything. Our much bigger body-mind helps us leave this ordinary reality and enter the other, helps us leave that non-ordinary reality and come back to this typical world of matter and rationality. The practice also connects us to our human ancestry, which is the biggest gift of all as far as I am concerned, because we remember in our own bones how we used to think. And now that we have a left hemisphere that is dominant, which we didn't have 10,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago, now we have the real possibility of a whole brain. And that connects us to our human ancestry. Why give up the wisdom that they used to know just because we know things from the technological, scientific, analytical, logical angle? There is no reason for it to be either or. It's both and. I love this work because it's developmental. Both the spirit world and our nervous systems have atrophied over misuse for thousands and thousands of years. So the more we do this work, the more we hone our own nervous system and our own brain, and the more the spirits begin to remember, we have humans to work with. So what precisely was Goodman's discovery? It's really very simple, although it took her at least 15 years of experimenting to figure it all out. If we hold a posture of the body, and here you see a Bolivian version of the same pose that was in wood carving in the prior slide, if we hold that pose steady for 15 minutes while listening to rhythmic stimulation, we reliably experience non-ordinary, extraordinary reality. Felicitas called this a religious trance, when we are in the company of the sacred. And here's an example of how we look, which is kind of contraindication to sacredness, isn't it? But luckily our eyes are always closed and we get used to us looking a little bit silly because the outcome is so worth it. At the Institute, where research continues, even though Felicitas is gone, we have discovered that there are 7 categories of postures. Because our time is short, I will not describe them all right here, but you can see their names and imagine how potent it is to be able to choose a posture and know that it will take you to a very specific experience. And we know that because of the reports that come back afterwards when we share in the group. So, when guided by simple ritual, simple observations of reverence and gratitude and humility for the spirit world, the ancestors, this practice contributes to human evolution and cultural transformation. And here are some of the reasons how. It takes us back to earlier paradigms of thought prior to agriculture. Back in the real old days, there was no concept of evil. Can you imagine how that would change our world today? We did not think we had to control nature or control life, but rather work with the currents to be in a reciprocal relationship. Imagine how that would change our entire way of being now. Physiologically, it brings our brain into our body so that we remember the intelligence of the gut. It also holds our 2 hemispheres so that they are working together. The practice releases endorphins reliably and other hormones which help us to feel that blissful sense, that high afterwards. It stimulates our nervous system and charges us up, freeing our energy, and it invites collaboration. The group brings back different aspects of each other's stories, and it is just phenomenal how two heads and more than two hearts really do make a much bigger whole. And most importantly, it gives us an experience of ecstasy. Ecstasy, you might say? Ecstasy? That's depravity, that's sexuality, that's craziness. Au contraire, ecstasy is fundamental to being alive, and we have simply forgotten that. Goodman said, in the long run, humans cannot tolerate ecstasy deprivation, and Bruce Wilshire, in his wisdom, used that single quote, even though he had never experienced the posture, as the beginning of his really deeply moving book, Wild Hunger. His description of ecstasy is that it takes us out of ourselves at the same time we are joining with, that it is that participatory bond with life that we so hunger for. My own descriptions of ecstasy are a felt sense of communion with everything around me so that I no longer feel alone or lonely, that I experience the energy coursing through me, the moment-to-moment flow of being alive, fully immersed, so immersed that I forget about me. I simply am alive. Why do we hunger for ecstasy? Because it feels good. And why does it feel good? Because our ego has let go. What a relief. The ego is literally exhausted from trying to control the uncontrollable. You can imagine how good that feels. So, a spiritual practice which encourages that sense of ecstasy, oh my goodness, it changes all our possibilities. And rather than kill off the ego, it's about helping the ego have a more reliable, practical, relevant job, because we need the ego at this stage in our development. And in addition, when we are working as a whole, we find easier ways to negotiate life surprises. We feel as if we belong to something bigger and more important than us. And most importantly, awe, A-W-E, awe undermines addictions. And when we are feeling ecstatic, we are in awe. And so we can live healthier lives. And isn't that a good thing? So why are postures called ecstatic? The body holds the key. The body, not our intellect, has the built-in capability that is so much bigger than our brain mind alone. I love this aspect. The body is like the doorway to enter non-ordinary reality. The specific pose of the body is the key, and the rhythmic stimulation is what turns that key, opens the door, powers us through. It's quite a brilliant system, and it's all built into it. The body's posture provides expanded consciousness, ancestral paradigms that I've already mentioned, and personal bone-deep truth and vision. So they heal our lives and offer us a foundation for changing our modern storylines about how life works. So why do I use that word wisdom? Wisdom is beyond knowledge. Wisdom sometimes cannot be substantiated by facts, and yet wisdom is that which we decide on and move on when we know we are connected to a context. We are embedded in the world around us, in the generations becoming after us, and the knowledge from before us. Wisdom is so much bigger. And postures, because they help us enter the mystery, help us cultivate that mystery. postures, and the ecstasy they provide are intimately related with wisdom. So, these postures expand our abilities to be fully engaged with the mystery, to be aware of co-creativity, collaboration, and new ways of being in community with each other. And they inspire our reverence and our gratitude for this miracle of life, all of which help us to be the imaginal cells, like those cells in the cocoon of the caterpillar, which help us turn into the butterfly of the new human, contributing to a just, sustainable, and spiritually fulfilled human presence on this planet. I hope this inspires you to sample ecstatic wisdom postures for yourself. And I don't need to say all this. You can read it. I'm very excited about the new online community which I've started and which is starting to flourish. Dive in. I hope you'll join us and enter into the deeper conversations and help us plan events, whatever emerges from this work together. I also have information on my blog, and I invite you to contact me through my email. And there is also the Felicitas D. Goodman Institute, Cuyamungue, that's pronounced, where workshops are held pretty much through May through October, and you can find their listing of events and all the certified teachers in America on that website. Here's my bio, which you can read quickly. And then a few of my favorite books. And all of this, I imagine, can be turned into a PDF if you would like it in that form, although I will have bibliography on the Dive In site. And I also have a free downloadable Good Medicine for Our Time, I guess you'd call it an essay, a booklet, which offers some of the same information in a different format and includes instructions for how to get started in your own living room. And again, that's downloadable at the site called Dive In, which can be accessed at awakeningstorylines.ning.com. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope to hear from you. Bye.